Hello everyone, it's mysticjuicer back with some more Codex action, and this is a game between myself on the left and ap49 from the forums on the right. I'm playing white, he's playing blue. I have rolled to go first, so I will be opening up with the classic white strategy of play a one-cost thing, play rook, make a worker, and pass. I get the best possible opening, basically, as white here. White is incredibly strong going first. You can apply incredible pressure with him, and Aged Sensei is possibly, I think, probably the best one-drop you can draw in your opening hand. He can tap. He's a 1/1. He taps to give any unit or hero, any friendly unit or hero, one additional attack and one armor. Rook, of course, starts as a 2/4 for 2 cost with no abilities on his starting band. I'm going to tech Sparring Partner and Bird's Nest. They are excellent tools as first player. Bird's Nest is going to allow me to summon a bunch of friendly birds that keep respawning even if they die. And Sparring Partner is going to allow me to either make Rook incredibly big or make my birds large and terrifying. So ap49 opens with Onimaru, he Blue's combat hero, also very expensive. He starts with Frenzy, so I'm going to try to minimize the ability of Onimaru to attack. I want to force him to be defensive. He's going to patrol with the hired, what's his face? It's a 1/2 for 2 with long range, so long as it has 1 attack. Can't remember the name of the card exactly, but that is unimportant. He's going to patrol that in the squad leader spot. That means that he is a 1/2 with 1 point of armor. So on my turn, what I'm going to do is swing with Rook, boost him with the Sensei so that he doesn't take any damage. That's going to give him the 3 attack he needs to clear the squad leader. And then I'm going to put something in front of Onimaru and hope that he doesn't have a rest. But even if he does have a rest, it's not going to be enough to move my patrol out of the way and kill Rook, which is the only thing I'm really scared about. That would be a very, very expensive thing for him to do. He's going to tech Brave Knight and Scribe. Brave Knight, basically the combat tech 1 of choice. 3/3, and anytime it dies due to combat damage, at the end of that turn, it's going to return to his hand. So very effective way for him to keep his hand high. It's got readiness as well, so if it survives, it can swing quite nicely. And the other thing he teched in was Scribe, so a 2-cost 1/3, when it arrives, draws him a card. I think this is a fairly... the Brave Knight is kind of an expensive opener. I think a lot of people typically go for either Spectral Flagbearer, Spectral Hound, or Overeager Cadet as their opening tech 1 of choice, but I think he just wants kind of larger bodies, and the Scribe's going to allow him to convert some money into board presence, into safety, into patrollers, without going down on cards. So I do play a rather expensive 3-cost Tech 0 unit, which is the, not the Fox Viper, but the Fox something or other, 2/2, anti-air, and it has Frenzy, I believe. In any case, I'm just putting it in the patrol zone to put a little bit of damage on Onimaru, because Onimaru is the only thing he can attack with this turn. It will kill my patroller, but it is, again, Onimaru has 4 levels. He has to reach level 5 in order to get to midband and heal, and that is very, very expensive to do. So typically with Rook and Onimaru, you know, they both have that kind of that cost associated with their leveling. So you are really, you're on a delayed timer in terms of leveling your hero, because it's such a big expensive investment of resources. You're only going to do it if you really, really need to, and probably it's going to be later on. It's going to be in kind of the mid-game, outside of the first, it's not going to be on the second turn. It might not even be on the third turn. Okay, he plays a reputable newsman. 2 cost, 0/3. When it comes to play, you name a number, and your opponent cannot play buildings, upgrades, and spells. Or it might just be upgrades and spells of that cost. He names 4, which is very interesting. That is definitely a mistake. There is no spell that I'm going to have access to that costs 4. The only thing that White has in terms of spells that cost 4 are Fox's Den Students, which is Setsuki's ultimate. I've already got a hero out, and it's not Setsuki, so that's definitely not anything. The upgrade I have is 2 cost, myth making, and it doesn't really look like I'm going for that sort of thing. It does prevent 2... Let me just double check reputable newsman. Okay, never mind. Okay, so I'm teching Thunderclap, and it looks like, I believe either Rombasa Twin. Was kind of difficult to tell. It was definitely a Tech 1 unit. Might have been another sparring partner, to be honest, but it probably was Rombasa Twin. I have a pretty good tempo setup here. He does have a 0/4 blocker with the point of armor. And he has played Spectral Aven, which is a 2/2 flying illusion in the resist slot, which is kind of scary. Flyers in this game are basically recurring direct damage until you deal with them, because unless they are hitting another flyer, they just don't die. So difficult to deal with. I definitely don't want... I think Spectral Aven is incredibly good. Its only drawback is that it does disappear if it is targeted by some kind of spell. He does play it in the resist slot. If he wants to keep the Aven alive, my thinking is that he should actually not patrol it at all. He may be patrolling it there. Oh, and he did in fact wipe out my 2/2 in the lookout slot with Onimaru, which is fine. That's actually ideal. I wanted that to happen. Because it means that there's damage on Oni. He's got to spend resources in some way to either protect him by patrolling more aggressively than, or more conservatively, I guess is the better way to describe it, than he otherwise would. But I'm going for a very, very classic Karate Cookie Birds opening. So Rook with Aged Sensei. Okay, he's teching Injunction and a 3 cost. I think probably another... It looked like another Brave Knight. Definitely another Tech 1 unit. It looked kind of Brave Knight-ish. Definitely going to work on that glare. Instructions for people not to show your cards directly in. And also for me to keep in mind to bring it at least to midfield so that I can see exactly what I'm teching in. It is at this point my turn. I cannot clear the taunt. And so, sorry, going back to why he's putting Spectral Aven in the resist slot. Rook has a mid-band ability where if there's only one patroller in the patrol slot, he can walk right past it. So I guess he is worried about a possible response to a single patroller where I just level Rook to mid-band, I flatten Oni, I use Aged Sensei to prevent one of the damage that Oni would do anyway, and then I've got this massive Rook. I'm seconds away from max banding him because it's a much shorter jump from 5 to 8 than it is from 1 to 5. Much less expensive. And then Rook basically becomes unkillable because you have to kill him twice. The first time he dies, you remove all the damage from him, and he gets a Crumbling Rune, and then once he's got a Crumbling Rune on him and he takes lethal damage, then he actually dies. Sparring Partner is a 1-cost 2/2. You can tap him to place a +1/+1 counter on something, either a unit or a hero on your side that does not have a 1/1 counter. and then you can pay one, or no, you can pay 2 to untap him again, and the only thing he can do when you untap him using that is spar again. He cannot attack. So if you do want to attack and spar, you need to attack first, then untap him, then put something on it. And because he's a 2/2 body, it's generally not going to be a board that he can do that and survive. So you're typically choosing between sparring twice or using his attack as damage. So I am going to grappling hook the Aven. I do not want to deal with a flyer. I do not want to allow free damage to be applied either to my units or to my hero that I am going to have a difficult time healing from. I'm going to patrol here in a second. I do want to keep the sparring partner alive, so I'm actually going to patrol the Aged Sensei. I should probably... I don't think it makes much sense to put him in taunt. Actually, okay. No, if I'm patrolling him alone, what I should really be doing is either patrolling him in either one of the scavenger or technician slots. Those are the very typical, very obvious slots. They're the ones that give you direct benefits. +1 card is incredible. +1 money is very, very good. You can see I'm patrolling the sparring partner in the technician slot, so if he does die, I did go down because I played both, I workered, I also built a sparring hired a sparring partner, and I also cast a spell. So I am down to 4 cards in hand rather than 5. So if on the off chance something horrible happens and my sparring partner dies, at least I get back up to 5 cards. That is my thinking there. So the reason I'm patrolling the Sensei in the taunt slot is if for some reason, I do want to protect myself, but I don't want to patrol just one thing, just in case. Whenever I'm playing against blue, I'm always worried about arrest. It is it's a high cost spell, but it is going to allow blue to be aggressive and to diffuse tempo. So right now, what I'm trying to prevent as white is for ap49 to be able to equalize the board. I have an advantage. I'm able to swing. I have pressure. If he is able to put us in a position where we are back in neutral, and he has something, even if he clears both sides, he sacrifices everything he has and it destroys everything I have, that is a net negative to me. I'm trying to prevent that from happening. So I'm okay with letting the Aged Sensei die. I am going to be teching in Mind Parry Monk, and I believe I tech in Training Grounds. So I am going for Discipline as my tech 2. Part of the benefit of going for, and I'll talk about why I go for Discipline in a second, but part of the benefit of going with a sparring partner opening backed by Bird's Nest is that it's relatively inexpensive. It leaves me a lot of options open. It leaves me with enough money that I can either go for Tech 2 fairly easily if my units survive, or I can level Rook to mid-band fairly easily, because that also would cost 4 money, just as Tech 2 would. Whereas something like opening with Rombasa Twin immediately, that's 4 money that I'm investing. It makes it much more expensive. Basically shuts me out of leveling Rook if I need to, and it also makes Tech 2 more difficult. I have to make something happen with those Rombasa Twins, which, as player 1 is a little bit easier, granted, but I have to make something happen. I cannot afford for them not to attack properly, not to swing for value, not to give me presence on the board, because if that happens, then I'm so far down on resources, I probably can't make an easy transition to Tech 2 on a relatively quick timescale. Okay, so I finally draw Bird's Nest. That's going to give me my 2 adorable, horrible avians, with which I'm going to be cruel and awful and just vicious. 1/1 flyers, and ordinarily, like putting two 1/1 flyers, like in a game like Magic, that's almost a non-thing. Like, who cares? But in a game like Codex, flying is so good. As I said, like if you're attacking stuff without anti-air and stuff that doesn't have flying, it's basically recurring direct damage that just stays on the board forever. You no longer have to spend resources on it. And Bird's Nest, because it's a spell that is recurring. Okay, Guardian of the Gates. Okay, so he's going Law, Guardian of the Gates, and I believe the other thing looked very much like Justice Juggernaut. Pretty sure, yeah, I saw something kind of carty. So Law is the kind of choke you out slowly kind of build. Guardian the Gates is a 3-cost 1/6. It cannot attack. Whenever it deals combat damage to a unit, it's going to disable that, so it exhausts, and it does not untap on your next upkeep phase. Justice Juggernaut is a 4/6 for 6 money. Incredibly expensive. It's completely unstoppable, but it cannot patrol. And again, if it dies, you put a Crumbling Rune on it, and then it is allowed to die for real if you kill it again. So I am going to spar. Or no, sorry. I think I'm actually... Yeah, that's right. I attack. Because he's patrolling with a 0 attack unit in the squad leader spot, I can actually use Sparring Partner to attack first, then untap him, then spar. I am very likely to be putting the +1/+1 counter on Rook. That is going to make him incredibly survivable, yeah, indicated by the dark blue dice. So he is now a 3/5 level 1 hero. And because ap49 has very little in the way of damage on his board, he's got a 1 attack Scribe, and currently, I believe he has not leveled up Onimaru at all. He's still at level 1, so a 3/3 on his turn, Onimaru. That is only 4 damage. I've patrolled my Rook in squad lead, so it is a 3/5 with 1 point of armor, so a 3/6. That is very, very difficult to deal with. He cannot arrest him because it is a hero and not a unit, so he just has to deal with Rook. The only way he can really get by him right now and wreak havoc on my backfield is if he had teched one of the Onimaru spells, Boot Camp, which would allow him to exhaust a unit or non-peace hero and put a +1/+1 rune on it. But that would be making my Rook so huge. A 4/6 at level 1, and then you can't. That would be truly horrifying, I think, from his position. So he's got a weakened board. He doesn't have too much attack. He would have to level Oni to mid-band. That would make him a 4/4, and then attack with the Scribe for 5 damage, and that is still not enough to kill Rook. So he may apply some pressure. He may attack into him. I can't remember exactly how this goes. I am looking for stuff to tech. Oh, sorry. So why have I gone Discipline? Discipline is, I feel, White's default game plan as game 1. It is incredibly robust. It is a very solid game plan. The unit that I chose to tech, the Mind Parry Monk, just causes severe nightmares. It is a 5-cost 5/4, so it's very expensive. 5-cost 5/4, but opponents simply can't target your units or heroes with spells or abilities. So I'm teching in a second one, actually, just so I guarantee that I draw it as soon as possible. And I'm also getting Speed of the Fox, which is a Satsuki spell, a ninjutsu spell. It gives my ninjutsu hero haste, readiness, armor piercing, and +1 attack. So I have gone up to Tech 2. I now have the ability to play a second hero. I want to make sure that I have as much tempo, as much aggression, as much damage on the board as possible at any time. So that is just kind of a safe, relatively inexpensive, relatively low commitment thing that I can commit to. I am, I believe, still down on cards because I have not lost anything, and I have continued to play 1 card per turn, as well as workering once per turn. So I'm consistently drawing 4 cards. So he has just lawful searched me, lets him cantrip, and it also lets him look at my hand or discard. He has chosen my hand, so he knows exactly what I have. I believe I have snapback. Can't remember exactly what else I have, but snapback is the really important thing that he's got to consider at all times, and is probably one of the things that is further limiting how much he wants to invest in Onimaru. Snapback allows me to send one of his active heroes back to his hero zone, back to the garrison, essentially. Okay, there we go. Yeah, Rambasa Twin, Snapback, Grappling Hook, and Thunderclap. So I have just basically a giant unit with a lot of pressure, like two incredible units with a lot of pressure, and a ton of ways to get stuff out of his patrol zone. Currently, both of his units that he has on the board would be Thunderclappable, which is a 2-cost Rook spell that allows me to move up to 3 patrolling units out of the patrol zone. Just allows me free reign to go wild on his back line or into his units or his base. He has towered up at this point. I can't remember exactly which turn he did so, but he does have that. So I'm going to be taking a little bit more damage every turn that I attack, but that is not going to stop me. I'm going to use the pressure and the units that I have. Okay, so he maxes Onimaru just to get the 3 soldier tokens, 1/1 soldier tokens with Spark Shot. I don't believe, I have been paying fairly close attention to what he's been teching. I don't believe he has teched Oni's ultimate spell. Even if he does, he knows that Snapback is around the corner, so it's very unlikely that he would have. So he's investing a lot of money into Onimaru, knowing that I have Snapback. So he must be doing that so that I have to use it. We'll see how that works out, though, because I have a big Rook. Oh, that's right. Okay, he's probably going to kill my Rook here. That is fine. I will have flyers. He cannot attack with enough to get rid of both of my... Well, in fact, he can't attack with anything that can touch my flyers, so I will be able to counterattack and wipe out Onimaru. So I will lose Rook, but he will have to trade basically his hero for it. I will be able to play a hero to soak up some free levels after this, so that is fine by me. He's still on Tech 1, so he can't have another hero out. So he's going to use I think it's Manufactured Truth, to convert one of his units into a sparring partner, and that will allow him to kill Rook. Possibly trade for the sparring partner? No, okay. Yeah, so he swings with Onimaru, who has readiness, so he's not going to actually tap, or exhaust, I should say. Readiness is the ability he gets at his mid-band. Yeah, and he puts the Manufacture Truths, the kind of useless, reputable newsman who had declared on 4 as an error. I definitely think that was an error. So he at least gets that additional damage that he needed to make something happen there. Notably, he has the ability to attack with Scribe, but he is choosing not to. Not sure if that's a mistake or not. He can basically apply 1 damage to either my Tech 2 or Tech 1, very likely my Tech 2. That just, any damage on a Tech 1 or 2, on a Tech building at all, anything you can reduce it from 5 hit points to something more achievable. There's a lot of stuff in this game that deals 4 damage. Or 3 damage, and there's even a larger amount of stuff in this game that deals 3 damage. So anything you can do, like you may not think 1 damage or 2 really matters at all, but it is incredibly valuable. So I think probably, he's patrolling with the Scribe and Squad Leader just to prevent my my sparring partner from being particularly effective. I believe I'm going to get Setsuki out at this point. because I have teched some Setsuki spells. And this is actually a board that's quite good for Setsuki to walk into. If I had been planning ahead a little bit more and anticipating him going for an Onimaru Max Band, okay, he's just putting another... He's getting duplicates here, so another Guardian at the Gates and another Justice Juggernaut. He has not yet built up to Tech 2. I can't quite look exactly where his hand and deck are, but I think he's probably teching fine. He did tell me after the game that he was a little concerned and taken aback by the fact that I did not go for... I think he was anticipating Strength, which is actually not a build that I typically go for, so unfortunate for him. So I spar with one of my birds. The bird will kill Onimaru. The bird will take 1 damage because of the tower. And at this point, if any of the birds die, because Rook has died, Bird's Nest has gone away, therefore the birds will not respawn. So they are simply some free units that I'm trying to get as much value out of as possible. I get 2 free levels on Setsuki. I am now very rapidly going to start teching Fox's Den School, which is a very strong closer. Incredibly strong ability. Is going to puts 4 1/1 ninja tokens into play, and for the turn gives all of my ninjas haste and stealth, or haste and invisible. Double check that real quick. Haste and stealth, which lets them get by controllers. Taking a second to think here, I am probably going to end up using the other bird to take out one of the Sparkshot soldiers. Likely the one in Elite, because it is not going to take any damage back. It will die to the tower if I do so, but it does take another body off of his board. Yeah, and it doesn't give him any resources, so I'm fine with that. He gets to keep his Scry, which I'm not particularly worried about. Setsuki is currently at mid-band? No, she mid-bands at level 4, so she is 1 shy of mid-band. I am going to get aggressive with Rambasa Twins. So 4 cost, 3/2. As soon as you put one of them into play, it fetches the other one from the Codex. And the first time each turn that a Rambasa Twin dies, it will return to the Codex instead of going to the discard. So they basically, there are 2 for 1 when they come into play. And when they die, they thin deck, so they don't actually clog up your deck and your cycling, which is very, very nice. And they are well suited to be to a high tempo position. I'm not quite there yet. I'm basically playing them so that he has to deal with them. He can only kill one of them with the board he has right now, which is also very good for me. Which means that one of them is going to stick around, the other one is going to go back into the Codex. So I can choose to tech him back in, but I will likely not. I will probably simply allow them to die on separate turns, put them back in the Codex, and that's where they will stay. At this point, if I haven't already, I am definitely going to be teching in Training Grounds. I may be teching in some more spells, possibly Shuriken Hail, just in case he does go for continuous token strategies by bringing Onimaru back out and leveling up. I might... Actually, no, it's probably going to be Training Grounds and Fox's Den students at this point. Yeah, that would probably be the smartest things to tech. I'm very close to getting Setsuki to max band. Once she's there, it's going to be very difficult for him to get rid of her. The only way he's going to be able to deal with her really indirectly, I mean, I think at all, is basically going to be playing Free Speech, which is silencing an opponent, so their heroes can't cast spells and they lose all abilities. But that means that he's putting Quince into play, who's not a combat hero. He only ever has 1 attack on him. Yeah, throughout all of his bands. And he doesn't directly. He's not good at getting tempo back. He puts blockers in the way so he can be stally. Oh, okay, I'm actually putting Daigo into... so the Hero's Monument, a 6 health building that's untargetable and puts an 8/8 legendary token into play who's indestructible, untargetable, unstoppable, but can't patrol. And all my heroes get +1/+1. So it's not the greatest Tech 3 thing. It's a 6 health building that can be quite easily dealt with. Or, well, not quite easily, but it can be dealt with more easily probably than other things. But I'm still feeling rather comfortable here. He's not fielding anything particularly scary. He's not fielding anything that is putting significant pressure on me in terms of taking back the board or putting me on the defensive. So I feel fine. And I have definitely at this point teched in the training grounds, which will allow me to rapid level my heroes very, very quickly. So for ap49's turn, he is going to play... He's going to go to Tech 2, start building his Tech 2 building. He does put Big B Haze into play, a 2/3 hero. It's going to allow him to stash. He puts a Spectral Aven into play, which is going to allow him to defend against my remaining 2/2 bird with 1 damage on it. So he is still defending up, and so long as blue is defending, that is fine. I think that he has probably either cycled badly and already drawn into a Tech 2, like one of his Guardian of the Gates or Justice Juggernaut at this point. I think it's been long enough. He's almost certainly gotten to it. Although I haven't gotten to my Tech 2 units either, so maybe we're both having some bad luck, or maybe I'm just misremembering how quickly quickly or slowly this stuff moves. In any case, I keep both of my Rombasa twins. And this is I kind of thought to myself like that seems very much like a mistake to me, but I can see it on both ends. From his perspective, none of my stuff has overpower. Therefore, each of his units actually blocks and prevents one of my units from attacking. So they're more valuable as chump blockers, right? They trade better. Basically a series of 0 cost and 2 cost low tech units is keeping my 4 cost 3/2s from being particularly effective. And there we see the training grounds come into play. This is going to be very, very scary for ap49. Very, very quickly, things are going to get rapidly out of hand. Training Grounds is a 4 health building. It costs 1. All of my heroes get +1 attack, and I can exhaust it to level a hero to max level instantaneously. That is amazing value. The thing about it is you basically can't play it if you don't already have tempo. So again, this is why I love Discipline as a player 1 build for white. If you're able to maintain... Okay, so Injunction and Judgment Day, he's seeing that things are getting scary. He's going to try to either disable a whole bunch of my Tech 1 units, which right now is everything except the bird and a hero. So that would be very, very bad for me. He's also preparing ahead for what scariness I'm going to be playing. Notably, blue has a lot of options to get around Mind Parry Monk, who just prevents targets. You can still be affected by spells that don't target, or abilities that don't target. But it makes things more difficult. In any case, he's trying to he's preparing to defend himself against oncoming pressure. So I attack with Rombasa Twin. I have used Sensei's advice to give him both +1 attack and 1 armor. So I'm going to get a lot of good trades out of this. I'm going to be aggressive and clear board because all I want to do is protect my my investment in Training Grounds. If that survives 1 turn, I'm going to get incredible value because I'm going to put Rook into play, exhaust a building, and basically get 7 levels for free. That is massive, 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 massive. So I swing with everything. My Rombasa Twin will survive. It is a 3/2 with 1 armor. It takes 1 damage from the attacker and 1 damage from the tower. So only one of those is going to actually go through. So I retain both Rombasa Twins. And notably, I have also maxed Setsuki. She has Swift Strike on attack. Oh, I must have built a Heroes Hall at some point. Yeah, so I'm putting both heroes out. And I'm going to be swinging with Setsuki to eliminate his hero, I believe. Yeah. I'm just going to wipe his entire board and put a ton of pressure on. Next turn is going to be a nightmare for him. I've just gotten rid of the hero that is most effective at resetting the board, which is Bigby. His ultimate spell can be cast even if he wasn't maxed at the beginning of the turn, which is usually a restriction that ultimate spells all share. And what it does is it destroys all tech 0, 1, and 2 units. So it would allow him to essentially get rid of 2 damaged Rombasa Twins, which isn't even all that great, but it will allow him to at least survive. And the other thing he can do is Injunction, which allows him to disable a tech building, a level 1 or 2 tech building, not tech 3, and all of that player's units of the same tech level. So very effective at sort of controlling the board, dealing with units in particular. The only thing that Blue really has to deal with heroes is putting out a bunch of units, and I just wiped out his entire board. I've put a bunch of heroes into play, which it has a very difficult time with. The only thing it can really do, again, is fight it with units and heroes of its own, which White's heroes definitely outclass. Yeah, teching in Earthquakes just to clear things out, because next turn I'm going to max Rook, and then it's going to be incredibly difficult to deal with him. And so I'm just teching in ultimate spells to close out the game as quickly as possible. Setsuki is going to allow me, because she is max banded and now draws me 2 additional cards every turn on my upkeep, unless he deals with that. I'm going to be able to cycle very, very rapidly. I can play cards out of my hand much more aggressively, or I can just try to get as many cards, get as deep into my deck as quickly as possible to get those ultimates. Either way, very, very far ahead from here, and I don't know what ap49 can actually do from this position. He's already got the tower out. He's already being defensive. He can play Onimaru, but again, playing a single hero, and the only body hero he has is Onimaru. The only combat hero he has in this position is Onimaru, because I've just killed his Bigby. Is incredibly weak to snapback. If you max Oni and patrol him smartly in squad lead and try to prevent as much damage as possible, you might just get snapbacked. Or I have 2 damaged Rombasa Twins, and I am more than willing to trade those into a big hero because they're not sticking around because you've got a tower up. So really, really difficult for him to get anything going from here. He could possibly... the only thing I can think of is he has to have teched free speech already, which we know he hasn't. He has to bring out Quince, free speech, bring out Oni, max Oni, and then play Art of War. Or no, he can't even do that because that's the ultimate, and he hasn't had him maxed before. So yeah, not a position he can really survive from very effectively. He's got to put a Guardian of the Gates into play. He's only just now getting his Brave Knight, which just isn't enough. He's just playing everything out of his hand as quickly as possible just to try to weather the storm. But it is not going to be enough. All I have to do is not make a mistake. I need to attack smartly. Get as much value out of my weakened units as possible, get as much value out of my heroes as possible, and keep resetting the board until my ultimate spells can win the game for me. A lot of pressure. White, I think, has one of the strongest player one game plans in the game. Again, I'm saying this as somebody who has relatively little experience in the game, but they have very, very strong heroes. They have very good one-drops, which are very important to a color if it is going first, because hero plus one-drop plus worker is such a strong opening. And yes, both Aged Sensei and Smoker are very, very, very good as one-drops. Very good for tempo. Aged Sensei will prevent damage to your hero, which saves you money in the long run, and gives your hero additional attacks, which means that, you know, it's essentially attacking with long range, because the Aged Sensei just never dies, because it gets to attack for free on the back of a hero. And Smoker is a 1/1 that's untargetable, and you don't really care, and it has stealth, so it can attack past patrollers and harass in the back line, and there you go. There's the max banded rook immediately, which I think Matt, yeah, Matt was watching this game. You may remember him from the red versus green game. He basically looked at both of those cards, looked at me, and just gave me this disgusted head shake. So instant conversion to a white faction player. No, he's actually very interested, just some Matt backstory here. He's actually very interested in looking into some of the multicolor possibilities. So I really look forward to checking out what he does. Okay, so teching Jurisdiction, which will allow ap49 to play any non-ultimate spell from his Codex using Bigby Haze. Costs 2, and also getting another Judgment Day. Just you know, he's trying to fight the heroes with bodies, and if that doesn't work, he knows I'm going to play units soon, so he's got to find a way to deal with that. Okay, so I play Thunderclap. Now that, again, Satsuki has started to pay dividends, she has maxed, she is giving me free cards, I can be much more aggressive with spells. A lot of Rook spells allow me to get rid of Patrollers, and Patrollers is what he is desperately trying to put out there to stop me from getting in and actually dealing damage to his tech progression or wiping his heroes. Which is the way he's going to get back in the game, is if I am unable to successfully wipe his board, or if I'm unable to actually prevent his move to higher levels of tech. So I have leveled Grave manually to give him readiness, so I can attack him, or attack with him into the squad lead. I'm going to use the Rumbasa Twin to wipe out... Oh, he placed the Brave Knight into the discard, but he actually remembers to pick it up into his hand. I believe it goes at the end of turn, but it doesn't really matter. So I'm one Rumbasa Twin down. I still have... So I can still attack with Satsuki and the Rumbasa Twin. So I've got to make a decision. Do I want to wipe his heroes again? Or do I want to start going for his Tech 1 or 2? I believe I go directly for his heroes. Yeah, I do not want to leave, especially Onimaru. I do not want to leave Onimaru on the board. I'm going to use that free money to level Grave to 5. He will soon be able to max. I can heal that 2 damage off of him. And I'm basically just going to have... And I haven't spent any money yet. Yeah, Rook is maxed. Because of Training Grounds, he is a 5/6. So he is alone able to smash Tech 2. So I now have a lockdown. I do not feel any pressure to try to go for Quince. He is not a big enough threat. I end up using Speed of the Fox to give Satsuki the damage she needs to be able to kill Tech 1. And now he's really in trouble because he's not even going to be able to play the really efficient Tech 2 blockers, which are Guardian of the Gates, which probably wouldn't save him anyway because they don't deal enough damage. They are 1/6s, so he would basically have to put one of them in Elite to get real, you know, Soviet damage out of them, to borrow a phrase from Mike Z's inimitable Iron Tiger combo video. I don't know. I love that thing so much. Quick shout outs to just go Google Iron Tiger Mike Z tutorial and go have a laugh. In any case, I finally bring out the Tech 2 guns. Next turn, I will go for Tech 3. Unless I am incredibly pressured. I believe he is down on cards. I would be very, very surprised if he wasn't at most at 4. Yeah. Counting out the no, okay, no, that's right. He he does have some cards in hand because of Brave Knight, because of having something in Technician, so he's probably at max. But I believe he's basically sorting his cards into different, into, you know, can't play it and can actually play it, but will not get me any value. He's just got a lot of pain ahead of him. I do have some damage on my heroes, but damage on Setsuki is basically only ever going to come from Tower, because she has Swift Strike. Rook will never die, so damage on him is basically irrelevant. And Grave can still max and remove the damage from him next turn. So those heroes aren't going to disappear anytime soon. I'm still trying to think of a way that he could get back in this game, and it really has to be hero based. He's got to play a lot of units, he's got to play a lot of heroes, and he's got to play the right spells to keep me from using my hero abilities to smirch him, as it were. But at this point, it is looking very much like I am in mop-up mode. He is currently at 16 hit points, 16 health on his base, because I did wipe out both of his tech buildings, so he can't even play Tech 1 units. So the only thing he can play is Tech 0. It is very likely, given how far into the game we are, that he has workered most of them. Yeah, there comes the reputable newsman. He should be naming either 5 or 4. Reason I'm saying that is the only 2 max level heroes that I currently have are Rook and Setsuki. And Setsuki's ultimate costs 4 and puts a ton of hasted ninjas into play. And Rook's ultimate costs 5 and it basically wipes your buildings. Deals 1 damage to every undamaged building and 5 damage or 4 damage to every... Yeah, 4 damage to all damaged buildings. So the setup there, you know, you ping 2 of their tech buildings for 1 and use its ultimate. You've already dealt some damage to their base, which means that both of their tech buildings die, dealing a total of 4 damage to their base, and their base has already taken damage, so it takes another 4. That's 8 total damage to base. That is brutality. Good lord, so much value, so much damage in one horrifying spell. I'm drawing tons of cards every turn. And now you can kind of see why I went for, yeah, so he named 3 as his spell of choice, just, I guess, to prevent snapback from happening, but I think at this point that is the least scary thing I could be going for. I guess it is the more guaranteed thing. I probably have snapback, and I may have one of the 2 ultimate spells, but I think you only really get back in the game and prevent me from winning by naming one of the ultimates and getting correctly. And I think probably Fox's Den Students is the one you're most worried about, especially from this board. There's no way I can really ping Tech 1. It's very likely that I'm going to explode it immediately. So you don't really, I mean, Earthquake just isn't prevented anyway. It's basically a non-factor. So I'm using the bird token just because I don't want to spend the time pulling the ninja tokens out separately, but I have 4 1/1 stealthed hasted bird tokens there. Use the Mind Parry Monk, which has 5 attack, which is so much attack, and it's got 4 body, which is pretty good, to wipe out one of the patrollers. I have Thunderclapped his squad lead, reputable newsman, out of the way, so I only need to efficiently deal with Bigby, who's at level 1, so I just spent Setsuki on her. And now I've got Grave, which is a 5/5, Rook, which also deals 5 damage, and then I have 4 more damage on the birds. He is at 16 health, so I'm going to realize in a second that I have Sensei's Advice, which will boost 2 of the ninjas, giving me lethal damage. So that will close out the game as soon as I realize that I do have lethal. For some reason I thought he was at 22 base health, which is physically impossible, but I do realize it in a second. So well played by ap49. He wasn't really able to muster a defense, unfortunately. I don't know if it was the tech plan not coming together, just unable to deal with the pressure. There were a few errors in terms of not naming the correct value on Newsman early, which allowed me to play some spells than when I otherwise may not have been able to. And I think ultimately that it was a mistake not to get rid of the Rambasa twins. But in any case, thank you for watching, and I will bring you some more Codex action as soon as I can. In the meantime, have a good one.